Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be exploring this idea of a source, something that can inspire us, guide us, and really empower us to reach success and overcome any of those challenges that we're facing along the way.
Hmm. It really is such a fascinating concept, right?
Hmm.
I think it just kind of speaks to this desire that we all have to connect to something bigger than ourselves.
It really does. The excerpts that we are going to be diving into today are from a text called Connected to the Real Source. And what's interesting is that the text never really defines what the source is. It's
Yeah.
more of a metaphor,
Yeah.
It leaves it open to each of us to kind of interpret it for ourselves.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so powerful, right? We can think about what does it mean to me? What fuels my passion? What gives me the strength to push forward? What's my source?
I love that. So before we get too far into it, what are some of the key takeaways that you got from the text about connecting to this source?
Well, one of the big ideas is that tapping into this higher power, whether that's inner strength or maybe a guiding principle or maybe even a supportive community, can be transformative.
Okay.
And that this connection can help us grow personally and become incredibly resilient.
Yeah, and it's not just about like waiting for inspiration to strike, right?
Right.
The text really emphasizes this idea of using our energy to connect with the source.
Mm.
Like every opportunity is a chance to tap in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really focuses a lot on that youthful energy, you
Yeah.
know, that vibrancy and optimism and the drive that we all have when we're younger.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Just this potent force for growth and achievement.
I can definitely see that. So we have this idea of connecting to the source and actively using our energy. But what does that look like, in a real world situation? I think the source introduces us to this young a guy named Stephen from Kanyama Village. And I think his story really brings these ideas to life.
Stephen's story is a great example of hard work, dedication, and relentlessly pursuing your goals even when it's hard.
Even when times are tough and you just got to keep going.
You just got to keep going.
Yeah. And although he doesn't explicitly talk about the source, his actions and his motivations really speak for themselves.
Right.
It's like this inner drive that he has, along with his family support, really becomes his source.
Yeah, and that's a great point because it highlights how connecting to the source doesn't have to look one specific way for everybody.
Right.
It can be different for each individual, but it's all about putting in that work every day and being driven by something deeper.
So the text uses this really powerful phrase saying that connecting to the source leads to a renewal of the mind,
Mm.
which allows us to make a positive impact on the world around us. So, how does the source explain what this renewal is?
Well, it all comes down to transformation. The text really focuses on this idea that transformation is the key to unlocking your hidden potential.
Okay.
So by tapping into the source, we become more than we ever thought possible.
Yeah.
It's like a rebirth of our capabilities and perspective.
So, it's not just about personal growth,
Uh,
it's about reaching a new level of awareness and having the ability to create change. And with that comes a sense of inspiration and hope.
exactly. The
Yeah.
text really links those ideas together perfectly. By finding your source, you can fuel your ambition and your ability to overcome any setbacks.
Oh, totally. And I think Stephen's story is like a perfect example of that link between inspiration and hope, his dedication to his writing dreams and his family.
Yeah.
It's so incredibly inspiring.
It shows that connecting to your source can also inspire the people around you.
Yeah.
So his story just reinforces the idea that our actions, no matter how small, can impact others.
So we've talked about connecting to the source, transformation, inspiration, and hope, but now the text introduces this idea of destiny.
Okay.
So how does the text define what destiny is?
Well, it doesn't talk about destiny as if it's this preordained path.
Hmm.
It's more about this journey of self-discovery and growth and becoming who you're really meant to be.
I love how the text puts it. Your destiny makes a step ahead of more things when you go deeper and discover who you really are.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
That quote really just captures the idea that we have agency in shaping our own destiny. It's not about waiting for things to happen, but about taking action and going after what we want.
So it's like the source can guide us, but we're the ones who got to take action and make it happen. So
Yeah.
how do we do that? How do we connect with our source and really reach our full potential?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think to answer that, we got to take a deeper look at what the text says about using energy to grow and achieve things.
Okay, so what are some things that really stood out to you about harnessing our energy?
Well, the text is very clear. Connecting to the source takes energy.
Hmm.
It's not something that just happens, you really have to search for it and nurture that connection.
So it's about being intentional and focused and putting in the effort to really connect with that source of strength and inspiration.
And the text uses this really powerful phrase. Every opportunity that you get to connect to the source, utilize it. It's like a call to action for us to make the most of those moments when we feel connected to something bigger.
I love that. It's a reminder that those opportunities are all around us
Yeah.
if we're just open to seeing them.
If we're just open to seeing them.
Yeah, so what other techniques does the text mention for making that connection?
Well, that's where the emphasis on youthful energy comes into play.
Okay.
The source really recognizes that young people just have this vibrancy and drive that could be super powerful.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all about learning to harness that energy and direct it towards something meaningful.
It's like that raw potential just waiting to be unleashed.
Huh.
Oh, I remember when I was younger. It's like that feeling of just limitless possibilities.
It really is such a precious resource.
It is.
And the source even says that it's not just about youthful enthusiasm.
Okay.
It's about focusing that energy and drive on the actions and things that we want to achieve.
So it's not just about having energy. It's
Yeah.
about how you use it. I think Stephen's story is the perfect illustration of that.
Yeah.
Because even though he doesn't explicitly talk about the source,
Right.
his actions show what it really means to use your energy in a good way.
Absolutely. His dedication to his studies, helping out with chores, his commitment to his family, all of those things take effort and energy.
Yeah.
And even though those things might seem ordinary,
Mm.
on the surface, they become the building blocks for achieving something extraordinary.
He's creating that foundation for his dreams brick by brick, through his focused effort. He's not just waiting for that moment of inspiration. He's actively creating it
Yeah.
through his actions.
And that goes back to the concepts of transformation and renewal that we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Because remember, the text says that connecting to the source can lead to a really profound inner shift.
So it's like it unlocks a whole new level of awareness and potential.
Right.
But that must take so much energy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It doesn't just happen overnight.
Absolutely. It's a process that you have to participate in. It's about choosing to connect to the source and put energy into it so that it can nourish us back.
I love that analogy. It's like tending a garden.
Mm.
You have to put in the work, nurture the soil, and give those plants what they need to grow, and then the garden gives you back all these amazing things.
That's a really good way to put it. And just like a garden gives us fresh fruits and vegetables, our efforts to connect with the source lead to personal growth and fulfillment.
It's about choosing to live your life with intention and purpose.
Exactly.
What I find so empowering about all of this is that the text doesn't give us a specific path to follow. It lets us interpret it for ourselves and explore.
Yeah.
We each get to discover our own connection to something bigger.
And that's where the real magic is,
Yeah.
Figuring out what the source means to you and then doing the work to align your actions with that understanding.
It's about finding that spark inside of you and fanning it into a flame.
Hmm.
It's about becoming the best version of yourself.
And I think the things that we've talked about today give us some clues about how to do that.
Yeah.
They remind us that we all have the power to create positive change, achieve our goals, and live lives full of purpose.
It comes down to that connection with the source, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
It's about tapping into that inspiration and letting it guide you.
And using your energy wisely
Mm-hmm.
to fuel that journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about totally exhausting yourself,
Right.
but about making conscious choices out of what you choose to focus on.
So as we're wrapping up this part of our deep dive into the source, I want to hear your final thoughts. What do you hope people take away from today's conversation?
Well, I think the main message is that we all have a source within us.
Okay.
Maybe it's your inner strength, your values, your connection to something bigger,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it's all of those things combined. It's about recognizing that power and learning how to use it.
It's like that inner compass guiding you towards your true north.
Exactly. And these sources remind us that we can acknowledge our source and also learn to nurture it and let it guide us.
So it's not just about knowing it's there.
Uh-huh.
It's about actually engaging with it,
Yeah.
making choices that align with our values and move us closer to our goals.
And like we said, that takes effort and energy.
Hmm.
But it's not about pushing ourselves until we break down.
Right.
It's about being intentional with our energy and focusing on the things that really matter.
So it's like making a conscious choice to put your energy into the things that fuel your soul,
Yes.
the things that help you grow and become the best version of you.
That's such a good way to put it.
It's like choosing nourishing foods instead of junk food.
Right. And what's beautiful about all of this is that as we connect to our source, we become a source of inspiration for others.
Yeah.
Just like Stephen, our actions can inspire those around us to reach their potential.
It's less about individual growth and more about growing together. It's about creating a space where everyone feels like they can connect to their source and make a positive impact.
That's a powerful idea.
It is.
And it all starts with us owning that connection to the source,
Yeah.
making choices every day that are aligned with what we believe in and move us closer to what we want.
Before we talk about some ways to actually connect with the source, I want to go back to this idea of destiny.
Okay.
It's something that a lot of people misunderstand, right? Like a lot of people
Yeah.
think it's this thing that's already decided for us, something we can't control.
Right.
So how does the text address this idea?
Well, you're right. Destiny can be a tricky concept, but the text really makes it clear that you have the power to choose your destiny.
Okay.
It's not about blindly following some path that's already laid out for you. It's about creating your own path.
Yeah.
It's about exploring and growing.
Yeah, it's like you're given a map and a compass, but you get to decide where you want to go.
Exactly. The source material says, your destiny makes a step ahead of more things when you go deeper and discover who you really are. The more we understand ourselves, the better we can align our actions with our purpose and create a destiny that is truly ours.
Okay, so we've established that connecting to the source takes effort, and it's a journey of self-discovery.
Right.
But for our listeners who are thinking, this all sounds great, but how do I do it? What are some actual techniques that the text recommends for connecting with that power inside of you?
That's where the text gets really interesting because it gives us some pretty practical advice.
Okay.
And one of the most powerful techniques is mindfulness.
Mindfulness. How does that relate to the source?
Well, the text says that it's super important to be present in every moment, to really be aware of our thoughts, feelings, and what's going on around us. When we practice mindfulness, we quiet all that mental chatter that distracts us from our inner wisdom.
So it's like making space for that inner voice to come through,
Yes.
the voice that's connected to our source.
Exactly. And the text explains that mindfulness isn't just about meditation, although that's one way to practice it. It's about being mindful in everything you do, from your daily routines to how you interact with other people.
So like instead of just mindlessly scrolling through social media,
Right.
you could take a few moments to just breathe and be present.
Exactly. Or maybe instead of rushing through your workday, you could take a few minutes to check in with yourself.
Okay.
Notice how you're feeling and how your body feels. It's about being present all day long.
I love how practical that is.
Yeah,
It's something that anyone can do no matter how busy they are.
absolutely. The source material also talks about how important it is to connect with nature.
Nature. I mean, I get how spending time in nature is relaxing, but how does that connect us to our source?
Well, the text says that nature is a reflection of the source. It talks about how everything is connected, the cycles of life and death and the beauty and resilience of the natural world.
It's like nature is showing us the power and wisdom of the source that's within us, too.
Exactly. And when we spend time in nature, whether it's going for a walk in the park or hiking in the woods,
Yeah.
or even just sitting under a tree, we can tap into that energy and let it recharge us.
Like plugging into a universal power source.
Yeah. The text even says that just watching nature can change how we see things and help us understand things in a new way.
So it's about paying attention, being present, and letting yourself be inspired by the natural world.
Exactly. And another thing the text talks about is gratitude.
Gratitude. I can see how being grateful can make you happier, but how does that help you connect to the source?
Well, the text says that gratitude is a powerful form of energy. When we focus on the things that we're grateful for, we stop thinking about what we're missing and start to see the good things that are already in our lives.
So it's about appreciating the gifts that the source has already given us.
Right. And when we recognize and appreciate those things, it deepens our connection to the source and opens us up to even more good things.
It's like sending a signal to the universe saying, I'm ready for more good stuff.
Exactly. The
Mhm.
text says that a heart filled with gratitude is a magnet for abundance.
I love that. It reminds us that connecting with the source isn't about struggling or forcing things to happen.
Yeah.
It's about opening yourself up to abundance and letting it come to you.
And the last technique that the text mentions is creative expression.
Okay, creative expression. How does that connect to the source?
The text says that being creative, whether it's writing, painting, dancing, making music, or anything that lets you express yourself,
Yeah.
can be a powerful way to tap into your source.
So it's like our creativity is a way for the source to express itself.
Right. When we're being creative, we tap into a wellspring of inspiration and bring it into the world.
So if someone's feeling stuck or disconnected from their source, being creative could help them get back on track.
Exactly. And the text says that you don't even have to be good at it.
Yeah.
Just the act of creating is what matters.
So it's about the process, not the outcome.
Hmm.
Just letting yourself be playful and experiment and express yourself without worrying about being judged.
And when you allow yourself to be creative, you often find that you connect to a deeper part of yourself,
Yeah.
a part that's aligned with your source.
So we've talked about some really practical ways to connect with our source, like mindfulness, being in nature, gratitude, and being creative.
Yeah.
It's amazing how simple these things are. There's things that anyone can do, no matter who
Exactly.
you are or what you believe in.
And the text really emphasizes that it's not about doing everything perfectly or becoming some kind of spiritual expert.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you and making it your own.
It's about those small, consistent efforts to connect with your source and trusting that even the smallest steps can lead to big changes.
Hmm.
But what about those times when we inevitably face challenges or setbacks? How does connecting to our source help us through those tough times?
That's where resilience comes in. The text says that connecting to our source builds our inner strength and resilience.
Yeah. It's like we're building up this reserve of strength that we can draw on when things get hard.
Right. But how do we access that strength when we're going through something really tough?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Well, the text says that in those moments, it's super important to remember that you're connected to the source,
Okay.
to remind yourself that you're not alone and that you have strengths inside of you.
So instead of focusing on the problem,
Yeah,
you focus on the solution and your own strength.
exactly. The text even says to repeat the phrase, remember the source,
Yeah.
like a mantra when you're going through a tough time.
So it's like calling on that higher power, that inner wisdom, to guide you through the darkness.
Yeah, and remember, this isn't about denying the challenges you're facing.
Right.
It's about acknowledging them, but also remembering that you're strong and capable of overcoming them.
Facing your fears with courage, knowing that you have what it takes to get through it.
Exactly. And the text says that as we keep connecting with our source, our resilience will grow.
Mm.
We start to trust ourselves more and believe that we can handle anything that comes our way.
It's like working out a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Yeah. And the best part is that this resilience helps us in all areas of our lives.
Right.
It empowers us to make a positive impact on the world, even when things are tough.
So it's not just about getting through your own struggles, but about being a source of strength and hope for others.
Exactly.
Mhm.
The text says that when we connect with our source, we tap into this energy of love, compassion, and wisdom.
Mm.
And when we let that energy flow through us, we can make a real difference in the world.
It's like we become a channel for the source radiating its light and power.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on the connection between resilience and connecting to the source?
What really stands out to me is that connecting to our source isn't about being invincible or never facing challenges.
Hmm.
It's about developing that inner strength to face those challenges head on, knowing that you have the power to not only survive, but to really thrive.
Yeah, I like that. It's about realizing that challenges are just a part of life, but they don't have to control us.
Right.
Connecting to our source gives us that ability to bounce back, learn from our experiences, and come out stronger on the other side.
And it's so inspiring to think that as we become more resilient, we inspire others to do the same.
Yeah, it's like this ripple effect of strength and positivity spreading out into the world.
It is.
The text says that when we show resilience, we become living examples of what's possible. We show others that it's okay to struggle, to mess up, to fall down, as long as you get back up and keep going.
We become a light for others, reminding them that they have the strength to get through tough times, too.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the main message of today's deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about finding one definition of the source that fits everybody.
Right.
It's about each of us going on our own journey, figuring out what gives us strength, what lights us up, and what connects us to something bigger than ourselves.
It's about finding that inner compass and trusting it to guide you.
Right. And as we've seen, there are so many ways to connect with your source.
Yeah.
From being mindful and grateful to being in nature and being creative.
So many different paths.
It's about finding what resonates with you and making it your own.
It's about taking those small steps every day to strengthen that connection and let it grow.
And trusting that those small steps will lead to big changes.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into this powerful concept of the source, I want to leave our listeners with a question. How can you tap into your source today? What's one small step you can take right now to make that connection stronger and reach your full potential?
Maybe it's taking a few moments to just be still with yourself, or expressing gratitude for the good things in your life, or maybe doing something creative that makes you happy.
Yeah,
It all starts with a single step.
that's so true. And
Yep.
remember,
You're not alone. This source is always there waiting for you to discover it.
thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep connecting to that power within you.
It really highlights how the whole idea of the source,
Right.
it's not like a quick fix or a one-time thing.
Right.
It's more about how you approach life, how you live every day with intention and purpose.
Yeah. And what I find so empowering is that it doesn't say, this is the way you have to do it.
Right.
It lets you explore it for yourself and figure out what it means to you.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes it so special.
Yeah.
It's all about that journey you go on, discovering yourself and what the source means to you, and then figuring out how to live your life in a way that reflects that.
It's about finding that little spark inside of you and turning it into something big, becoming the best version of yourself.
And the sources we looked at today give us some great ideas about how to do that.
Yeah.
They remind us that we all have the power to make a difference, to achieve our goals, and to live lives that are meaningful.
It all comes back to that connection with the source, whatever that might be for each person.
Yeah.
Tapping into that inspiration and letting it guide us.
And using our energy wisely to make that journey happen. It's not about burning ourselves out.
Right.
It's about making choices about where we put our energy, focusing on what really matters.
So before we dive into some specific techniques for connecting with the source, I want to go back to this idea of destiny, because it's a concept that I think a lot of people get wrong, right?
Mhm.
They think it's something that's already set in stone, a path that's laid out for them that they have no control over.
Right.
So how does the source material address that misconception?
You're right. It can be tricky. But the way the source material talks about destiny, it really emphasizes that we have a choice. It's not about blindly following some predetermined path. It's about actively shaping our own path through the decisions we make.
Okay.
It's about discovering ourselves and growing.
Yeah, it's like we're given a compass and a map, but we get to choose where we want to go and how we're going to get there.
Exactly. The source material says, your destiny makes a step ahead of more things when you go deeper and discover who you really are. Meaning, the more we understand ourselves, the more we can align our actions with our true purpose and create a destiny that's really authentic to us.
So we've talked about how connecting to the source takes intentional effort and that it's a journey of self-discovery,
Right.
not a predetermined path.
Right.
But for our listeners who are out there thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but how do I actually do it? What are some concrete things that the source material recommends for connecting with that inner power?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting, because it gives us some surprisingly practical advice.
Oh, I'm listening.
One of the most powerful techniques it talks about is mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Okay, so how does mindfulness tie into connecting with the source?
The text really stresses the importance of being present in each moment. Cultivating that awareness of our thoughts, feelings, and sensations.
Okay.
And it suggests that by practicing mindfulness, we can start to quiet all those thoughts that are constantly running through our heads
Right.
and distract us from our inner wisdom.
So it's about creating space for that inner voice to come through.
Exactly. The voice that's connected to our source.
I like it.
And the text goes on to explain that mindfulness isn't just about sitting in meditation, although that's definitely one way to do it.
Yeah.
It's about bringing that awareness to everything we do,
Okay.
from our everyday routines to how we interact with people.
So for example, instead of just mindlessly scrolling through social media,
Right.
you could take a few moments to just breathe and be present.
Exactly. Or instead of rushing through your workday, you could take a couple minutes to connect with your breath, your body, and just see how you're feeling.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating that presence throughout the day.
That's a really good point. And it's something that anyone can do, no matter how busy you are.
Absolutely. The source material also emphasizes the importance of connecting with nature.
Nature. I mean, I can see how spending time in nature can be relaxing and rejuvenating, but how does that specifically relate to connecting with our source?
Well, the text suggests that nature is like a mirror of the source. It reflects the interconnectedness of everything, the cycles of life and death, the beauty and the resilience of the natural world.
It's like nature is showing us the power and wisdom of the source that also exists within us.
Exactly. So By spending time in nature, whether it's a walk in the park, a hike in the woods,
Yeah.
or even just sitting under a tree, we can tap into that energy and let it nourish us.
It's like plugging into a universal source of energy and wisdom.
Exactly. The text even suggests that simply observing nature,
Yeah.
noticing the details of a flower or watching a bird fly can change our perspective and open us up to new insights.
So it's about paying attention, being present, and letting ourselves be inspired by the beauty of the natural world.
Exactly. And another powerful practice that the source material mentions is gratitude.
Gratitude. Okay, I get how practicing gratitude can make us feel more positive. But how does it help us connect with our source?
Well, the text explains that gratitude is a powerful form of energy. When we focus on what we're grateful for, we shift our attention away from what we're lacking, and we start to see all the abundance that's already present in our lives.
So it's like acknowledging all the good things that the source has already given us.
Right. And that recognition, that appreciation, can deepen our connection to the source and open us up to even more blessings.
So by practicing gratitude, we're basically saying, hey, universe, I'm ready for more good stuff.
Exactly. The text says that a heart filled with gratitude is a magnet for abundance.
I love that. It reminds us that connecting with our source isn't about struggling or forcing things. It's about aligning ourselves with that energy of abundance and letting it flow into our lives.
Exactly. And the source material offers one final technique that I found really interesting.
Okay, what is it?
Creative expression.
Creative expression. Interesting. How does that connect to the source?
Well, the text suggests that engaging in creative activities, whether it's writing, painting, dancing, playing music, anything that allows us to express ourselves authentically can be a powerful way to tap into our source.
So it's like our creativity is a channel for the source to flow through.
Exactly. When we create, we're tapping into a wellspring of inspiration and bringing it into the world.
So if someone is feeling stuck or disconnected from their source,
Right.
engaging in some form of creative expression could help them unlock that flow again.
Exactly. The text even says that it doesn't matter if we're good at it.
Oh, really?
The important thing is the act of creating itself.
So it's about the process, not the product. It's about letting yourself be playful and experimental and expressing yourself freely without judgment.
Exactly. And in that space of creative freedom, we often find ourselves connecting with a deeper part of ourselves, a part that's aligned with our source.
So we've explored some pretty practical techniques for connecting with our source.
Yeah.
Mindfulness, connecting with nature, gratitude, and creative expression. It's incredible how accessible these practices are. Anyone can incorporate them into their lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the source material emphasizes that it's not about doing all of these things perfectly or becoming some kind of spiritual guru.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you and making it your own.
It's about making those small, consistent efforts to nurture that connection and trusting that those little steps can lead to big transformations. But what about those times when we inevitably face challenges or setbacks? How does connecting to our source help us navigate those difficult moments?
That's where resilience comes in. Remember, the source material emphasizes how connecting to our source can really cultivate our inner strength and resilience.
Right. It's like we're building this inner reservoir of strength that we can draw on when we need it the most.
Right. But how do we actually access that strength when we're in the middle of a storm,
Yeah, that's the question.
Well, the text suggests that in those moments, it's super important to remember our connection to the source,
Okay.
to remind ourselves that we're not alone and that we have this wellspring of strength within us that we can tap into.
So it's about consciously shifting our focus from the problem to the solution, from the fear to the strength.
Exactly. The text even uses the phrase, remember the source, as a kind of mantra to repeat in times of difficulty.
It's like we're calling on that higher power, that inner wisdom to guide us through the darkness.
Exactly. And the source material emphasizes that this isn't about pretending the challenges aren't there or ignoring them.
Right.
It's about acknowledging them, but also remembering our inherent strength and our ability to overcome them.
It's about facing our fears with courage, knowing that we have the resources within us to navigate them successfully.
Exactly. And the text suggests that as we practice connecting with our source more consistently, our resilience will naturally grow. We'll develop a deeper trust in our ability to handle whatever life throws our way.
So it's like we're building a muscle. The
Yeah.
more we use it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly. And the beautiful thing is that this resilience extends beyond our personal lives.
Okay.
It empowers us to make a positive difference in the world, even in the face of adversity.
So it's not just about weathering our own personal storms, it's
Hmm.
about being beacons of hope and strength for others.
Precisely. The source material suggests that when we connect with our source, we tap into this universal energy of love, compassion, and wisdom.
Hmm.
And when we let that energy flow through us, we become instruments of positive change in the world.
It's like we become channels for the source, radiating its power and light into the world around us.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Mhm.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What stands out to you about the connection between resilience and connecting to the source?
What really strikes me is that connecting with the source isn't about, never facing challenges or becoming invincible. It's
Okay.
about having the strength to face those challenges head on, knowing that you have everything you need to not just survive, but to actually thrive.
I like that. It's about understanding that challenges are going to happen, but they don't have to control us. You know,
Yeah.
by connecting to our source, we can learn to bounce back from setbacks, learn from what happens, and become even stronger.
And it's pretty inspiring to think about how when we build up our own resilience, we
Uh-huh.
can also inspire other people to be more resilient.
Right. It's like this ripple effect of strength and positivity going out into the world.
That's a beautiful image.
The text says that when we show resilience, we become examples of what's possible.
Yeah.
We show people that it's okay to struggle, to make mistakes, to fall down, as long as you get back up and keep going.
We become like a beacon of hope, reminding others that they have the strength to overcome anything.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the main point of today's deep dive. It's not about finding one definition of the source that fits everybody.
Right.
It's about each person going on their own journey, figuring out what gives them strength, what makes them feel passionate, and what connects them to something bigger than themselves.
It's about finding that inner compass and trusting it to guide you.
Right. And as we've learned today, there's so many ways to connect with your source,
Yeah, so many different options.
whether it's through mindfulness, gratitude, spending time in nature, or expressing yourself creatively.
It's about finding what feels right for you and making it your own.
Exactly. And taking those small steps every day to nurture that connection.
Those little actions that make a big difference.
Trusting that those small steps can lead to big transformations in your life.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this powerful concept of the source, I'd love to leave our listeners with one final thought-provoking question. How can you tap into your own unique source today? What's one small step you can take right now to connect with that power inside you and unlock your full potential?
Maybe it's taking some time for yourself to reflect or appreciating the good things in your life or even just doing something creative that makes you happy.
It all starts with that first step.
And remember, you're not alone. The source is always there within you, just waiting to be discovered.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. And until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep connecting to that power within you.